Okay, so this is just going to be a quick little rant, I guess, but just wanted to talk a little bit about the UFC event at the White House and the terrorist attack that was apparently planned to happen during it. So, I don't know if you've looked at it. I don't know if you've really even seen this story. It's not getting covered very much, honestly. But it's been said, and I quote, okay, depicting them as espousing a tangled web of anti-government sentiment, anti-Semitic grievances, fury over the Trump administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, and conspiracy theories about a powerful elite that sacrifices and consumes children. So that was apparently their motivation for this attack. And to me, that doesn't actually sound like the typical Democrat, which we've been seeing a lot more often with these assassination attempts and other politically motivated attacks. But this time seems a little bit different. It seems like this is coming from the more, I guess, some have coined it the retard right type character. Definitely seems that way uh, to me. These are the sort of opinions that you see pop up more with like Tucker Carlson fans. I also saw in another article that they had a problem with data centers' water usages, which, by the way, if you look into that, it is not actually as concerning as the media makes it out to be. Not a huge AI defender, but that's just not one of the greater issues with it, to be honest. Um, but so I just want to talk a little bit about this development and what it actually means because I feel like it's getting underplayed a lot. Uh, this is the first time in a little bit we've seen a legitimately more grassroots right wing attack. And it isn't coming from, you know, the bog standard conservative. It isn't coming from a more regular Republican, a more mainstream Republican. This isn't exactly like a Charlie Kirk fan Republican who's doing this. This is the Tucker wing of the party. This is the Thomas Massey wing of the party, the Candace Owens wing of the party, the, more retarded wing of the party. They are, in my opinion, they're basically they're basically liberal. I mean, their like framework for how they view the world is this like proletariat versus bourgeoisie framework with just this veneer of Christianity on top of it or something like that and then you know, hating the Jews, which isn't exactly um one side either. The left has also hated the Jews historically, not just the right. I don't know why the right gets saddled with that so much, but it is not just the the right who does it. So I think that we do need to kind of keep this in mind going forward that this is a growing extremism from this sort of new right faction that's kind of legitimately in line with news media, honestly. Like, does Tucker Carlson disagree with basically what anyone is saying on like MSNBC? He's parroting like all of their points. It's all of these like anti-American, anti-capitalist, anti-Republican, anti-Trump, anti-MAGA talking points. It's not helpful to the overall movement at all. In fact, I'd say it's completely torn the coalition apart. The movement's practically dead in my eyes, which is pretty sad because MAGA was easily the best right wing movement we've had in years. It was actually working. Um, we were getting things done for once. And yes, we actually did accomplish a lot of things with the MAGA doctrine. Uh, if you watch a lot of Tucker Carlson, you probably don't believe that or know that. But I promise, if you look into it yourself, we've actually gotten a lot of cool things done. Uh, and a lot of the promises that Trump made, he actually kept. And I feel like everyone's kind of just hung up on the Iran war situation, which I understand being apprehensive about that, but they've let it completely fracture the party. But that's not all. That's not the only thing. It's a bunch of other random nonsense, like this the single family homes are getting bought up by BlackRock. No, they're not. If you actually look up the numbers on that, it's like really small. They act like this is happening, like whole neighborhoods all across the country are just getting bought up at these massive numbers, and that's why no one can afford a house. Well, that's actually not true, like at all. That's not what's happening with the housing market. The housing market has a lot of things going on with it that's making it more difficult for younger people to buy houses. A lot of that is just like regular issues, economic issues that are just hitting the younger generation harder because they just blatantly have less money, or things like immigration, which we've also seen a decline basically 1 to 1 with housing prices as immigrants leave or get deported. So that should tell you something right there, that that was maybe a problem, right? But, you know, that's just a few things that bother me, I guess, about that whole coalition's points, not even to get started on the Epstein stuff. I have a lot to say on the Epstein stuff. I think it was handled really poorly by the administration, but honestly, I think it's a bit of a nothing burger that might be controversial. It's proven to be controversial in the past when I've said that, but it just sort of is what it is, honestly. I think it's kind of nonsensical. And here's the thing. Okay. I used to be like, oh, this Epstein thing, it's a big problem. Like, we need to get this under control. And yes, it is. Don't get me wrong. It was very sketchy. A lot of the stuff we were hearing about it was very sketchy, but also there wasn't a lot of proof to go along with anything. We just had a bunch of ideas and, fair enough. There were some weird things about the case that made us think that those ideas were maybe likely. So, should definitely be looked into. But then I realized with how it's being handled, it's just a political cudgel being used by the left, right? Um, it's just being used to hit the Trump administration over and over again by Democrats. But then then people on the right started to do it constantly. And it's like, where were you? Why weren't you pushing for this more uh during Biden's term? Like, this giant push has been during Trump's term. Where were all you people making a ruckus about this during Biden's term? And don't get me wrong, there were some, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, whatever you have to say about her. Now, again, she's one of these people who basically abandoned MAGA, but there wasn't this giant push, and it wasn't like everyone was calling Biden a pedophile constantly, like there are with Trump. So it's just a little strange. The thing that really made me be like, you know, even if there is something with Epstein, first of all, we're never going to hear about it. Okay. Like, it just is what it is. I hate to tell you that, but if the Epstein thing is legitimate, we're never going to hear about it. We're never going to actually find out about it. And even if they did drop all of the files they have right now, and it turns out that, you know, maybe he was just, this is my theory, this is what I think the evidence actually shows. Maybe he was just basically bringing around escorts and not children, and certainly not eating children. Okay. I think he was probably just you know, a chauffeur of high class prostitutes to some individuals. And I think we can kind of see hints of that in the emails that we do have. And there's basically no evidence that he was leading children around to these parties. I think as much as people generally think that politicians are like slime and would be okay with that, I actually think a lot of people surrounding politicians and some politicians themselves would not be okay with that, with children being involved generally. But so I think Epstein was more doing that stuff. But even if that came out, and that was all we could prove, or something else, or maybe we do actually bust a couple pedophiles or something with the last like 3 million files or whatever's left. What if it's not like all of the politicians? I seriously think a lot of people would not accept it regardless of what it, like however bad the bust is, or even if it's nothing. If it came out that there was nothing in those files, I think people would genuinely just uh not believe it. And I think we're already seeing that. I mean, we got like the 3.5 million emails, basically nothing too crazy in them. There was some interesting stuff, definitely, and there was some stuff that made me, look twice and, oh, that's a weird email. But there wasn't anything conclusive. There wasn't any conclusive evidence. And people immediately are like, oh, it's because they're hiding it. Is that really going to change if they drop the next 3 million? It's not. People are going to keep doing it. So it's pointless. That's how I feel about it. It's just like, why would I even discuss this at this point? Like, nothing can be done. But, anyways, kind of a tangent there. This coalition on the right is a problem. It's not just a problem for, you know, the left or whatever. They're not the big scary guys. In fact, I think these people are very politically ineffective. That's why Thomas Massey got kicked out. That's why pretty much all of these retard right politicians are getting their shit pushed in during election season. They're not sticking around. Uh, but it doesn't matter because they do have a fringe Gen Z audience, younger audience that isn't as inclined to vote, but is still nonetheless politically engaged. And that might not be enough right now to get them kicked out of office all the time, or put in office, I mean. Might not be enough to get them put in office all the time, but that share will grow if this coalition continues to grow into something bigger in the future. Whether or not that happens, we'll just have to wait and see. No one can predict the future, but I will say, with how they were talking about things, and shit, we saw someone exactly like this. This was the Mar-a-Lago assassin. This was the Mar-a-Lago assassin. This is the second time this has happened. The Mar-a-Lago assassin was also coming for Trump because of the Epstein files, because he thought that Trump was a pedophile or whatever. And yeah, he could have been a MSNBC watcher, I suppose, but it wouldn't matter, honestly, because Tucker and uh Candace and all these kind of people, all these anti-MAGA people on the right, are saying Trump is a pedophile, even if they're saying it under their breath, or, just by implication. And then Tucker can go, oh, well, I never actually said that he was a pedophile. So, you can't actually say that about me. And that's actually not accurate, or whatever he's going to say. Uh, Basically, these people are ruining what was good. And I don't like them because of that. I really don't like them. They, uh, they have torn the coalition in half. It's actually worse than that. They've torn it in like 4 different pieces. It's very extremely fractured. And I think it's honestly because Charlie Kirk died. I do. I think it is related to that. I think he kind of kept everyone together a little bit. He kept people, I guess, maybe not together, but kept them on track, right? He kept them focused on, hey, we got to win the election. And with him gone, and you can tell this because it basically started as soon as he got killed, but everyone lost their shit and everyone started doing whatever they wanted. And I think we are going to pay the price for it. We're going to get these sort of like fringe idiots who are supposedly right wing, even though I really wouldn't even include them in the right, but I guess they technically are, uh, by I guess most people's standards. But we have to deal with that now as that being a part of our movement. That's bad. That's really bad. And it's not just bad for the movement, it's of course bad for everybody because they're going to be doing attacks and possibly killing people. That is not good. That is very bad. We do not want to be involved in any of that. essentially, to end this video off, we're seeing this rise from, I guess, like the Tucker right in, I guess, attacking the administration, attacking the American people. And I think this is kind of just written into the software of their sort of branding. They're anti-government, anti-Trump at this point, anti-establishment or whatever, even though they pretty much agree with the mainstream media on basically everything, except for maybe how they word things, because Tucker's super edgy. I'm a really edgy guy. I say gay people are kind of cringe or whatever. Like he is such a joke, dude. I don't understand how people watch him. I get he has interesting guests on, but he's just a dolt. He's a moron, to be honest. He's like so much of what Tucker says is just like blatant lies. And once you start just like looking into the things he's actually talking about, the things he's saying, and you start to discover, hey, he's fucking lying constantly, you just can't continue. How he's framing things is so wrong. Uh, and it's so deceitful. You can't be getting your opinions from someone like that. You just can't. If you watch Tucker for fun, that's fine. I've watched people I disagree with as well. But if you are looking to Tucker as some like actually smart political commentator who knows what he's talking about, who has, I guess, America's best interest at heart, I'd look somewhere else. He's a liar and he has been for a long time, like when he was smack talking Trump behind his back in emails at Fox News, which I think was actually the reason he got kicked out, if I remember correctly. That could be wrong. But this guy has been kind of a snake forever, and I really don't think he's in it for anything but the money and maybe his own ego at this point. Uh, that's pretty much all I have to say. I just wanted to rant on this sort of new right faction that's been forming for a while now and give my opinions on it. I am officially against the retard right. I am officially anti the retard right. Um, if you're a reformed retard right member, uh, that is good. You are welcome here. The retard right is also welcome to stick around. But I hope you learned something from what I'm saying. I hope you are listening to me. I'm not trying to be purely insulting. Because I understand it's easy to fall down pipelines like that. I understand it's easy when you're listening to stuff to just have these sorts of ideas in your head and basically let them make reality for you. But you shouldn't. They are painting you a false picture. They're painting you a fake reality. Um, you need to look at things yourself. Just simply look things up online. Ask Grok about it. Do whatever. Do whatever. The info, the data is out there that disproves them on a lot of this stuff. And I've probably been flashing some of it on the screen while I'm talking. Uh, so I hope you got something useful out of this video. I know this has kind of just been like me cycling through a bunch of topics and babbling nonsense, but it is really important, I think, to have these conversations and just, I guess, be aware of what we're dealing with in our current political moment. The right is no longer just MAGA, and I guess it's been that way for a while, but it's not just that anymore. We are seeing this sort of factionalism, which I think isn't going to play well for us. The only chance we really have to beat the left and win elections and kind of get the future we want is by sticking together. Charlie understood that. Trump understood that. And, you know, it's going to be a real shame if we did all of that hard work of coalition building and did all that hard work of, coming together despite our differences here just to destroy ourselves for no gain except for the gain of a few podcasters, and the price is so high, the destruction of, you know, the country, but also very, very personal destructions as well. Like the people who, are going to prison for a long time because they believe these liars, to be honest. And the people who could die in future attacks from idiots like this who believe um these morons who are spewing lies. That's a very, very high price to pay for absolutely nothing to gain. All right, I'm going to call it there. I've been ranting for like 20 minutes now, so I hope you got something out of that, or, maybe I just pissed you off. That's fine too. Either way, maybe, comment if you hate me. That'd be nice. I would really appreciate it. We can talk about it in the comments. I'm still a small channel, so I am totally down to get in arguments in the comments. Uh, that sounds like a good time to me. So, what do they all say? Like, comment, subscribe, that sort of thing. I think you're supposed to say hype now too, because that's a new feature. Hype my video, dude. Hype my video. Okay. Thanks for watching.